It's been 2 years since I retired early at 51, and here's the truth. The hardest part wasn't the money. It was learning how to detox from work. After decades as a corporate executive, I thought walking away would feel like instant freedom, but I quickly learned that work leaves a mark in your routines, stress, and even how you see yourself. So today, I want to share what the last 2 years have taught me about detoxing from work, the good, the hard, and some unexpected lessons that no one warned you about. When you spend decades in the workforce, especially in high pressure roles, you don't just clock out and magically reset. I still wake up or woke up at 5:30 in the morning, even though I didn't have to. I still felt guilty sitting down and watch a movie in the middle of the afternoon. I still catch myself checking my phone like I was waiting for a work email that would never come. But a quick question for you. If you retire tomorrow, what's one work habit you think would be the hardest to let go? Drop it in the comments. I love to see if others struggle with the same things that I do. Detoxing from work is a lot like detoxing from sugar or caffeine. It just takes time. For me, the first few months were the toughest. I had to retrain my brain to stop measuring my value by productivity. I had to learn that rest does not equal laziness. I had to stop introducing myself by my old job title because that's just no longer who I was. One of the biggest surprises, how much emotional energy I had to reclaim. I didn't realize how much work stress was carrying my body until I let go. And it's funny because a lot of times I get into conversations with friends of mine that are still working. And one of the things, we talk about things being forward, like food forward or this forward or that forward. But one of the things that's forward in most of the people, most of the friends that I have that are working is the amount of stress that they're bringing from work because the first thing that happens is they talk to you about what their businesses are doing or the stresses at work. And I didn't realize that I was that person. I recall times where I would go to sleep, wake up, and continue to be drained. I didn't realize the toll that was taken on me. Had I continued working, I might have ended up with a heart condition, having a stroke or high blood pressure because it weighed so heavy on me. It took me a long time. I'm only 2 years retired, so it's not that long. But it took me a while to get past that, to number one, identify that it was happening, and then number two, to get past that. But now that I've hit the 2 year mark, here's what's different. My mornings are slower and I actually enjoy them. I wake up about 7:30 every day. I have a few cups of coffee, usually two or three. I walk out in the garden, see what's growing, see what's not growing. I try to record a video and look at my YouTube analytics. I try to catch an episode of The Price is Right, but I just enjoy my mornings. And I've replaced work routines with personal ones. Walking, having that cup of coffee, and just doing what I want to do without rushing. Unless I'm going to play golf and I get up and I give myself about 2 hours before my tea time. I usually have tea times at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, depending on the time of year and how hot it is. And I give myself time just to ease into going to play golf. But I'm not rushing like I used to move, move, move. I gotta be, gotta be, gotta be. And I started focusing on what I want to build in this stage of life, not what I left behind. It took me some time to get past my last job. I talk about my last job being toxic and that things were just really difficult. But some of that was me and some of that was just the environment. And coming from one environment going into a completely different environment, a lot of times when you come into an environment and you're bringing a certain type of energy, the people that have been there don't have that same energy. And they're already frustrated with the new environments. Where I might have been excited about what we can do in the new environment, they weren't. And it's similar to when I left. When I left, I got an obtuse email from somebody that was on my team. And I was like, why'd this person do that? And what I realized soon after was that I was retiring. I was doing what most of them wanted to do, and they were still there. And that didn't create happiness. That created resentment. And I got to a point where I realized I can either allow that to define who I am, and then I carry that into the future of my life, or I could just reinvent myself or reinvent the world around me, which is exactly what I did and left all of that behind. And so that's it's like a backpack filled with shit that I put in the garbage can and got taken away, and it's gone now. So I don't really care about it too much anymore. The only reason I bring it up is because I think it benefits you to understand that those types of things go away. We all have to deal with something in our work environments, whether we love our job or we don't. You start to move that stuff behind you, and I was able to move that stuff behind me. So who I am today is a completely different person than who I was when I was working. Not because my personality changed, not because I wasn't keeping it 100. It was because I'm not carrying that same stress. And so I'm not, as they say, trauma informed. I'm not carrying the stress or looking at things through the lens of the stress that I was carrying when I was at work. I know that sounded a little long winded, but it was really important for me to characterize that for you because I don't think people really understand the difference when you don't have that stress. Because unfortunately, our whole lives are built with these different stressors. And one of the biggest comes from work. And because most of us have been working since we were 12, 13, 14 years old, we just don't know any different. So when you get into that new world, you have to unlearn a lot of stuff. If you're planning on retiring soon, I have a few pieces of advice for you. And these are things that help me, but it all centers around the central concept of don't just plan for money, plan for the detox. Think about things like what habits do you need to break? One habit I needed to break was I was always on time. It's not that I'm not on time now, but I don't have the anxiety if I'm a couple minutes behind or if I decide I don't want to do something. I don't have the same pressure on myself or the same expectation of myself that I had when I was retired. Now, I'm still Johnny on the spot. And if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. But I'm very cognizant about how I spend my time, where I spend my time, who I spend my time with, and limiting access to people that I don't believe deserve the time commitment that maybe I was giving them in the past because they weren't doing the same for me. It's just that simple. I also suggest you think about what new routines you want to build. Look, it's easy for us to complain about what we don't want. I used to work with a guy, and every day he'd bring in a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and he would say, I hate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I'm tired of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I told him, if your wife makes you peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day and you don't want peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, then don't eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches anymore. Tell her not to make you peanut butter and jelly sandwiches anymore. And he said, my wife, she doesn't make me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I make my own peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day. And it hit me that sometimes people get so caught into a routine that even though they don't like the routine, it's what's safe for them. And they don't want to change what it is that's safe or comfortable for them. And so think ahead of time what types of routines you want to break because every routine you have isn't necessarily a good routine. And then the last thing I think you want to think about is how are you going to redefine yourself outside of your job? Who are you now? I am now Sabado, the master gardener. I am now Sabado, the community advocate. I am now Sabado, the volunteer. I am now Sabado, the golfer. I am now Sabado, the YouTuber. All of those things are what defines me now. And all my friends now, they don't say, hey, Sabado, the HR guy. They're like, hey, Sabado, ask Sabado, the YouTube guy. How's the channel? Because that's who I've become. I was able to redefine myself, and it didn't happen overnight. It took a little bit of time. I tell my wife all the time that 2 years into retirement, I'm finally getting to the place where I've embraced and kind of sunk into who I am. So it takes a little bit of time. And trust me, financial freedom is only half of the story. It's the emotional freedom that's the real prize. Forget the money. You got to pay for your rent or your mortgage, your food, electricity, and all that. But the other piece is the emotional piece. If you read and look at different YouTube channels, one of the biggest components they'll talk about, or they should be talking about, are the emotional components. For those of us that have had heavier emotional journeys just based on the stuff we have to deal with societally, it's a big deal. So you got to focus on that because if you don't, nothing's going to change. You're going to end up like my man that was eating peanut butter sandwiches every day. So don't fall into the loop. Change the death spiral. So that's what 2 years of early retirement taught me about detoxing from work. I'd love to hear from you. When you think about retirement, what's the hardest part? Is it the stress, the routine, the identity? Let's talk about it in the comments. I respond to every comment. In fact, this video was in response to a comment that I received, and I can't remember the name of the subscriber because it was in a post, not in the video. Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe for more real conversations. I keep it 100 with you. I talk about early retirement. I talk about my journey. I talk about financial freedom. I talk about how I'm in the process of building the life of my dreams and helping you with some perspective that'll help you build the life of your dreams. It's that simple. Thank you for watching the video, and here's to your journey towards financial freedom. And remember, I don't expect everybody to retire early, but I do expect you to live your best life. So, on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.